Every age tells its story through power and through the rare minds that dare to understand it. Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. Tonight, laws 7 through 9. If the last 3 laws were about perception, how to shape it, protect it, and survive inside it, then these laws move deeper into the mechanics of control itself. Not visibility, but leverage. Not appearance, but positioning. Law 7. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. Power grows fastest when effort becomes organized through other hands. Law 8. Make other people come to you. Use bait if necessary. The one who controls movement controls the room. Law 9. Win through your actions, never through argument. People rarely change through explanation. They change through experience. 3 laws, 1 architecture. The highest form of control is not force, but directing energy, attention, and behavior without appearing to. Tonight we listen to 2 voices, not to decide who is right, but to see more clearly what truly is.
The childish mind believes power belongs to the one doing the work. The mature mind understands something colder. Power belongs to the one who controls the direction of labor. Tesla built systems that transformed civilization, yet he died isolated, stripped of wealth, fragmented from his own legacy. Edison, meanwhile, mastered a different science entirely. He understood organization, visibility, acquisition. He hired minds the way kings once hired armies. One exhausted himself producing brilliance, the other accumulated it. History remembers the accumulator more clearly than the source.
Because history is written by echoes, not origins. Still, there is something tragic in that arrangement. The hand that reaches into lightning disappears into darkness, while the hand arranging candles becomes immortal. Tell me, brother. When a man lives from the labor of others long enough, does he not slowly lose contact with the sacred weight of creation itself?
Creation is overrated. Execution matters. Consolidation matters. Position matters. Rubens understood this perfectly. His studio functioned like a kingdom of specialized labor. One painter mastered robes, another landscapes, another anatomy. Yet patrons left believing they had witnessed singular genius. Why? Because genius, in public life, is often choreography. The crowd does not reward effort proportionally. It rewards coherence of image.
So the king becomes larger while the workers vanish beneath him. A pyramid of invisible hands.
That is civilization itself. Every empire is borrowed strength organized efficiently. Newton admitted he stood on the shoulders of giants. Shakespeare borrowed stories. Politicians borrow speechwriters. The strategist who insists on absolute originality wastes time proving purity while others quietly compound influence.
And yet the hunger beneath it fascinates me. Not the taking of labor, but the taking of credit. A strange human obsession. To carve one name into stone while thousands dissolve into dust.
Because recognition is authority preserved through memory. Without ownership of the narrative, labor evaporates. Tesla learned too late that invention without political instinct becomes charity for vultures.
Yes, he believed truth would defend itself. Many beautiful minds die from that illusion.
Truth rarely defends itself. People defend interests, identities, reputations, which brings us naturally to another principle. Never chase power directly when you can make it come toward you.
The geometry changes. No longer accumulation, but attraction.
Exactly. Aggressive men misunderstand control because they mistake motion for dominance. They rush, react, exhaust themselves, solving immediate problems while someone calmer, quietly arranges the room. Talleyrand understood this better than almost anyone. The others at Vienna feared Napoleon emotionally. Talleyrand studied him structurally. He knew Napoleon could not resist the image of return. The masses, the restoration, the theater of destiny. So instead of arguing endlessly that Napoleon remained dangerous, he baited him. Openings appeared, reassurances circulated, escape became possible. Napoleon walked into the trap, believing it was freedom.
That is the terrifying elegance of it. The prisoner closes the cage himself.
Because desire blinds more efficiently than force. People rarely notice manipulation when it aligns with fantasy. The Japanese understood this against Russia. They exhausted the Russian fleet before the battle even began. False information, endless travel, constant readiness. By the time the Russians arrived, fatigue had already hollowed their judgment. The body surrendered before the battlefield did.
Then power does not only defeat the opponent, it recruits him into his own defeat. But answer me this. If a man can be led by desire so completely, are you controlling him, or merely serving the deepest chain he already wears?
A useful chain is still leverage. I do not need to create every weakness. I need to recognize which ones already govern the room. Fear reveals instinct. Greed reveals blindness. Vanity reveals openings. Daniel Drew understood this. He dropped false, accidental information where ambitious men would discover it themselves. Because people trust conclusions they believe they reached independently. The best manipulation preserves the illusion of autonomy.
Like the pickpocket placing the warning sign, "Beware of pickpockets." And suddenly every anxious hand confesses where value is hidden.
Exactly. Human beings expose themselves predictably under emotional pressure. This is why argument is usually a waste of energy.
Because argument threatens identity more than it pursues truth.
Yes. The engineer serving the Roman consul could not understand this. He believed correctness alone carried authority. So he argued, explained, corrected, demonstrated superior expertise to a superior officer. The consul no longer cared which mast worked better. The issue had transformed. It became a question of hierarchy.
And once ego enters the room, logic suffocates quietly in the corner.
Precisely. Words corner people. Demonstration lets them surrender without humiliation. Michelangelo understood this instinctively. When Soderini criticized the nose of David, Michelangelo did not argue perspective or anatomy. He pretended to reshape the marble while changing nothing. Soderini left satisfied. The sculpture remained perfect. No conflict, no wounded pride. Result preserved.
A compassionate deception.
An efficient one. Christopher Wren did something similar. Forced to add support columns he knew were unnecessary, he built them without letting them touch the ceiling. The mayor felt safe. The architecture remained true. Again, no argument.
Which means civilization survives partly through carefully managed illusions. Not every falsehood is corruption. Some are social anesthetics.
Of course, raw truth is often socially destructive. People say they want honesty. Usually they want emotional stability.
And still, there is danger in becoming permanent curator of appearances. At first, the strategist manipulates perception. Then, one day, he realizes he cannot stop. Every room becomes calculation. Every silence becomes positioning. Every relationship becomes architecture. At what point does the manipulator disappear into the mechanism itself?
You speak as if detachment from the mechanism is possible. It is not. All social life is theater stabilized by agreement. Money, reputation, rank, leadership, nation. These are collective fictions maintained through repetition and performance.
Then perhaps suffering begins the moment we forget they are fictions.
No, suffering begins when we fail to manage them competently.
The vizier understood something deeper than competence. Condemned by the Sultan, he did not defend himself with speeches. He cared for the execution dogs instead, fed them, groomed them, sat among them. Then, when they refused to attack him, the Sultan understood his own injustice instantly. No argument, no ideology, only revelation.
Because experience bypasses resistance. Khrushchev used the same principle when challenged about Stalin. Why didn't you stop him? Instead of explaining fear, he recreated it. Who said that? And the room froze. Not because people understood the argument, because for 1 second, each body in that room remembered the price of visibility under terror. Demonstration always penetrates deeper than explanation.
Because symbols enter through older doors than language. The body understands before the intellect organizes meaning.
Which is why masters of power avoid unnecessary debate. Argument creates friction. Action creates inevitability.
And inevitability intoxicates rulers. That is what concerns me. The strategist begins believing he sees farther than everyone else. He arranges people, directs outcomes, shapes perception. Soon he no longer encounters reality directly, only reactions to structures he designed.
That distance is necessary.
Necessary for control perhaps, but deadly for the soul. Napoleon, Tesla, the engineer, one was led by glory, one by purity, one by correctness. 3 different chains, different prisons, but same pattern. Each became possessed by one fragment of himself.
Because imbalance destroys leverage. Power requires calibration. Take too much credit and people resent you. Chase too aggressively and you lose initiative. Argue too openly and you trigger resistance. Control lies in measured force.
Then maybe wisdom is not rejection of power, but seeing its metabolism clearly. Every structure feeds on something: attention, labor, fear, admiration, exhaustion. Even kings survive by consumption.
Of course, nothing sustains itself.
And perhaps the final danger is this. A man spends so long arranging the movements of others that he forgets to ask who arranged his own.
You believe there is freedom outside the system.
No, I believe there is awareness inside it.
Awareness changes nothing.
Sometimes it changes the one thing power cannot repair.
And what is that?
The exhaustion of becoming machinery for your own image.
You've heard both sides. What remains is not said.